So I'd like to welcome everyone to our Homestead Investment Cooperative webinar. We would like to acknowledge that we stand on the traditional territories of the Nihio, Dene, Nakota Sioux, Anishinaabe, Niitsitapi, and within the Métis homeland under Treaty 6. This land, a historic gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, shapes our commitment to fostering innovation, cooperation, and shared growth. We honor the enduring presence and deep connection of Indigenous peoples to this land, drawing on their traditions of resilience, respect, and community to enrich our collective endeavors in Edmonton and across Alberta. With gratitude, we embrace our responsibility to engage with reconciliation, respect Treaty 6, and cultivate partnerships that contribute to a legacy of mutual respect, understanding, and prosperity for all who share this land. And so because our first project is in Treaty 6, that's why we do a land acknowledgement for Treaty 6. And as we expand our offerings and projects across Alberta, we will add more land acknowledgements. So this is an introduction to the Homestead Investment Co-operative. It's an opportunity to invest in the first building in a portfolio of cooperatively owned Alberta real estate assets powered by co-working starting on Edmonton's historic Jasper Avenue. Why did we choose a community investment cooperative as our investment vehicle? Well, when we were first looking at creating a community of investors around the commercial property of Alberta Block on Jasper Ave, we looked at a bunch of different legal structures. And what we really liked about the cooperative model was that allows local empowerment, so investing in your own backyard and in your local community. Shared prosperity, where all investors are treated the same and get to share in the benefits of the property, and all ships rise together mentality. The social impact piece, we know that it's going to attract more socially minded investors, as well as we have already members that are connected to social enterprises and social impact businesses across Alberta. We really like the democratic decision-making model. So every member has one vote, and that vote happens at the annual AGM, where you get to make decisions, key decisions on behalf of the cooperative. You also get an opportunity to join the board if there's board positions available. And it's a way to decide how involved you want to be in your investment. The greater political influence. So we're already, again, attracting people that have political influence at different levels of government. We know that we're creating a community of Albertans that get things done, and innovators and doers. And so when there's regulatory issues or problems that occur where we need to interface with government, we know we're going to have a strong network to do that, as well as the long-term vision. So this is not we don't want to attract investors that want a quick return and just want to get in and get out. We want to attract investors that are thinking 5, 10, 20 years out and creating a legacy. And so our investment, we're looking for a commitment of 5 years minimum. So it does start with myself. The building itself, I purchased with a private group of investors in 2013, and we renovated it and gutted it in 2014 and repositioned it for new tenants starting in 2015. I was creating and starting my business as in real estate and commercial development, and I wanted my own office space. I didn't want to work alone. I had traveled across North America to a number of cities and seen co-working spaces done in New York and San Francisco and Seattle and Vancouver and Toronto. And I really like the model of not doing things alone and building a community around you to help you develop out your business and create those relationships. So, part of putting my business in its first office on Jasper Ave in a historic red brick building, I wanted to also create a space where other businesses could come in and grow their businesses out of. So we started the Homestead co-working business in 2015 and operated out of the second floor of Alberta Block. We also brought in architecture company, construction company, restaurant, barber shop, We had Edmonton Digital Arts College there for a time. So it was becoming a home to creatives and entrepreneurs and doers and builders working across Alberta. And post-COVID, I was looking at ways to innovate on the model, as well as we were getting inquiries for people that wanted to actually look at purchasing the building. And I talked it over with the existing investors and said to them, the one last piece of this building that never was fully realized was the idea that it would truly be a community through and through. So we had done a good job of building a community within the building, but I really wanted to bring community to the investment side and expand that model through this cooperative idea. And I talked with the existing owners. I brought in Don Iveson to get his advice because I knew that he had looked at these different models as well. And he joined myself as one of the founders of the Homestead Investment Cooperative. And then we added additional board members. So we have Jacqueline Cardinal, who's founder and CEO at Naheowen Storytelling and Education Social Enterprise in Edmonton. And she works to integrate and mobilize diverse knowledge systems to realize the promise of our treaties. Kyla Kazale is co-owner of Bamboo Ballroom, the Bamboo Stockroom, the Common, 9910, and Foods Repair Shop, which is actually our restaurant tenant on our main floor in the building. And Kyla combines her passion for music, culture, fashion, and Edmonton. Then we have Heather Kirschbaumer, who's founder and CEO at Golden Acre Seeds. And Heather runs a fourth-generation family farm in the Peace Country in northern Alberta. Heather has extensive board experience and 25 years of leadership positions on boards across Canada. And then we have Ahmed Abdelrahman, who's co-founder and COO at Solus, a fractional talent marketplace, connects startups and small to medium-sized businesses with fractional executives and professionals. He has 10 years of business advisory experience. So a little bit more about the building. So as outstanding cultural heritage, it was home to CKUA from 1950 to 2012. So unbelievable number of musicians have been under that roof and through those doors and done performances and interviews on CKUA radio station. And I met with some retired managers of CKUA who told me countless stories of the greats coming through there and performing and meeting with their radio personnel. So it's got a rich history of music. In the early 1900s, it was one of the first locations of Alberta Treasury Branch in Edmonton. It also had a furrier there that was selling furs for the fur trade, piano store at one point. And now it's home to architects, entrepreneurs, creatives, doers of Alberta. Like I said, in 2013 and 2014, it went through a deep energy retrofit and renovation. So we gutted it back to structure. We brought in new windows, new insulation, new mechanical, electrical. We upgraded the rooftop structure to accommodate a future rooftop patio. And that's in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see that that large roof can actually accommodate a rooftop patio, which we hope to do after closing on the building. And what we really focused on in the retrofit was reducing the operational costs. So we wanted to position this building for a strong future for the next 50 to 100 years with low energy consumption and low operational costs to make sure it was competitive in the downtown marketplace. And one last piece of the history, the building was built originally in 1909 with an extension, which is again in the photo in the right-hand corner, that little bump up where it says CKUA. That's a 5th and 6th floor that was added on the back of the building in 1913. So the building is currently leased with a 4% vacancy. It's currently appraised at 8.85 million. Now the purchase price that we've negotiated is 8.75 million, so a little under the appraised value. We have the opportunity to add the additional revenue after closing on the deal by developing the rooftop patio. And also there's additional basement square footage where we can add additional storage and potentially some other uses. One additional piece on the rooftop patio is over the years, we do constantly get asked by wedding photographers and wedding hosts if a wedding can be hosted up on our rooftop or they can do wedding pictures and stuff. It is one of the only opportunities along Jasper Ave to have some type of a rooftop access and rooftop patio. So we know, and especially in talking with Kyla, who operates Foos Repair Shop on our main floor, she already hosts events and corporate events, wedding events, birthdays, lots of different types of events out of their space. And she knows that there would be a high demand for this rooftop patio once we develop it. It's a little bit about the market. So commercial real estate vacancies in downtown Edmonton are decreasing. There's been a lot of conversions now from commercial to residential towers that have been occurring in downtown Edmonton, as well as people moving back downtown. And there's currently few opportunities for small investors and companies to participate in ownership of commercial real estate in downtown Edmonton. So currently, excuse me, I do have a cold. Currently, commercial real estate investing in downtown Edmonton is available to larger REITs and much larger private investment groups. So our areas of emphasis are focused on growing underserved companies and organization types, providing services that go beyond co-working and really creating a community, creating investment opportunities for our members and the community. So one of the things from operating a co-working space for over 10 years now is we definitely get inquiries from our clients around how did I become an owner in commercial real estate? How could they become owners? They talk about wanting to one day have a ownership in a piece of a building that they rent office space in, and this is one vehicle that would allow them to do that. We believe that our business models is an ecosystem, so stronger tenants give us a stronger building and stronger rents and lease renewals, which also helps create a stronger co-op community, which then also feeds into stronger tenants through referrals and stuff. We will focus on growing companies, make a major contribution to our economic revitalization, create wealth for investors and tenants, and expand the model to other communities. Some of our member services are co-working spaces that they can grow in. So we've had a lot of good news stories of of clients that have moved in and then moved up and out. So they started with a small desk or a drop-in style membership and then started to add employees as they grew their business, started to take a private office and then move into the larger private offices. And then eventually they outgrow our space and they go and take leases, commercial leases in other buildings. Ongoing peer mentoring requirements through our kinship program between members to help with community building. So that's where our members attend our events and host webinars to help educate our other members. Connection to social enterprise and social impact organizations across Canada. The ability to invest in the real estate owned by the co-op. Access to our co-op investor network, and connection to our co-op alumni member network. So we want to create opportunities throughout the year through events, whether that's virtual or in person, where our investment community and our co-working community and entrepreneurs can get to know each other and intermingle. And then as people leave our network, we want to create an alumni member network so that they can still tap in and see what's happening and still be engaged in our events. How will we build revenue? Well, our main revenue will be through our tenant leases that are in the building and then growing those businesses and growing the businesses within the co-working space. A ticketing for premium professional development events. So we already started that this last fall. We had speaker panel events and live podcasts, and we plan to do those again starting the spring. Brokerage fees for spaces tenants graduate to. So eventually we'd like to be a brokerage where when tenants outgrow our space, and if we're referring them to other landlords, we would like to collect fees on that. Space rentals on future amenities. So already we have several spaces in the building where different events can be hosted of different sizes, and we really want to expand upon that. Right now, we can host events up to 300 people, and that would be out of the restaurant space. And then out of the co-working space, we can host events up to 50 people. And then future real estate acquisitions. So this is intended to be the first project of many, and we intend to expand this model across Alberta. So this is a $9 million deal structure. As I mentioned, the purchase price of the building is 8.75. We have two raise scenarios. Scenario one is raise 100% of the capital through private investment. This would allow for opportunistic refinancing and sooner expansion to the next buildings. So what that would look like is raising 100% of the capital through private investment. We purchase the building and close on it, and then we place the best financing that we can find and negotiate the best terms, take out some funds out of the building and deploy that capital to our next purchases. So that would give us the quickest expansion scenario. Scenario two is where we raise the majority of the funds through private investment, place financing for the balance up to 4.375 million, which is 50% of the current purchase price. And then that would not allow for quicker expansion. If for future purchases of buildings, we'd have to do another raise. So it doesn't prevent us from doing expansion, it just take longer. That's the only downside. We've done a phased raise approach. So we started initially with friends, family, and close business associates, and that phase is closed. We're now in the public offering memorandum, and that's the current offering that is open. We've created incentives for the early adopters. So the first 1 million raised receives a 4% discount on face value of the shares issued. And then the second million raised will get 2% discount. And this is just to incentivize early commitment. We have 3 classes of shares. Everyone has to purchase a Class A membership share. That's your voting share, and it's a one-time $250 fee. And that's just to join the cooperative and have that vote. And then you could choose from one of two investment shares. Class B, which is minimum $10,000 buy-in, and you can go up in $1,000 increments. Or Class C, which is a $100,000 minimum, and you can go up with $5,000 increments. The projected annual returns are at least 6% based on the current leases in the building. So that's just based on cash dividends. That does not include the long-term gains in the building as well as pay down of the mortgage over time. So we know the returns will be much higher than 6%, but currently we're just projecting that because that is what we know we can provide to the cooperative. And we definitely don't want to promise and under deliver, but over time we do expect this building to perform well. One of the big benefits of this building, because we didn't just look at this building, we did look at some other buildings in downtown Edmonton. And the biggest benefits is that it's cash flowing. So it's not empty, it doesn't have the risk of new construction or major renovations needed. Those renovations occurred 10 years ago, and there's still quite some time left before major upgrades are needed in any mechanical, electrical systems. So the big benefit is this is cash flowing right now. It's a little bit more on the founders, our incentives, and our governance model. So the founders are serving as the initial board. We fronted all costs to date, at least 86,000. It's definitely more than that now, and have committed to 280,000 in the initial share purchases. Our founders and directors do not receive management fees for putting the deal together. What we do is we receive incentive shares only once the deal has closed. So that gives us lots of incentive to get this over the finish line and raise the funds and put in the upfront work. Our board size, so we can allow up to 9 directors, and we're currently at 6. So we have 3 positions available, one of which is reserved as a representative of the Class C investors. So the Class C investors get treated the same as everyone else, but because they will attract more seasoned, experienced investors, we wanted to give them a little bit more input at the operational level with the board and make sure they're getting their advice in a lot throughout the year, not just at the AGM, which is once a year. And then, as I mentioned, 1 member, 1 vote at the annual general meetings. So what is your role as an investor? So join our mentor community and help the next generation of leaders, creators, and innovators thrive. Refer like-minded potential tenants, mentors, and other investors that if you decide to invest, help us build our community. We want to attract people that have similar values and goals. Participate in 1 member, 1 vote general meetings to make key strategic decisions with the co-op community. And we've also created something we call the H100 Club. So we want to reward the first 100 member investors, again, as being early adopters, and give them recognition in a prominent place in Alberta Block in the lobby and reception area, and give them something to keep in return, an original H100 keepsake for display in your home or office. So just as a summary of the offering, so the issuer is Homestead Investment Cooperative. There's 3 classes of shares. Class A membership shares for $250 one-time fee. Then Class B membership investment shares for a minimum buy-in of $10,000 with $1,000 each up from there. Class C membership investment shares for a minimum buy-in of $100,000 and $5,000 investment share costs after that. So you can go up by $500,000 by $5,000 increments. Our offering amount, so you have to do a minimum and maximum. So our minimum is 4.625 million and our maximum is 9 million. Our voting rights, we have 1 member, 1 vote at the cooperative general meetings. And as I mentioned before, the Class C shareholder group may elect 1 board member. The rights on dissolution is proportionate share of net assets after liabilities. Dividends and patronage, board of directors will issue on investment shares based on annual operating results. The time horizon, so we're asking for a minimum 5 years before redemption unless under extraordinary circumstances. And the terms of this is all detailed in the offering memorandum. One of the questions I've been asked, is there another way to, if you want to divest earlier than 5 years, how would you do that? And there's an opportunity to sell your shares to a new member or to an existing member 4 months after you've purchased them. So that means you can bring in a new investor or you can reach out to the current investors and ask them to purchase your shares. It does have to get approved by the board, but that's one option if you need to divest earlier. And redemption means that's actually the co-op itself buying back the shares. So that wouldn't occur until after 5 years. And that gives us time to build up our operations and stabilize our operations and give our cooperative an opportunity to buy back shares and increase everybody's investment shareholding if investors want to exit. Use of the funds raised. So for the minimum offering raise amount, 4.375 million would go down for the building down payment. 150,000 for closing costs, so that's legal, accounting, marketing fees. And then we want to have $100,000 just for working capital that'll sit in a trust account. Just in case something happens in the building, we don't want to be going back to our investors for more capital. So that's just as a cash account. For the maximum raise amount of 9 million, we would put a down payment down of 8.75 million, and then have $150,000 in closing costs and $100,000 in working capital. Funds are held in trust until the building sale closes. If we don't close on the building purchase for any reason, those funds can be returned to everybody at their request, 100%. So we ourselves as the co-op, we don't have access to those funds until the building sale closes. These investments are RSP and TFSA eligible through the Canadian Workers Cooperative Federation. So that's either through purchasing a new RSP and TFSA, or you can transfer from an existing RSP and TFSA account that you might hold at another financial institution. Our current closing dates, the building sale closing date is April 30th, and currently this offering is open until March 17th, 2025. So why does this matter? So we believe that Edmonton, Alberta is a special place where builders, creators, and investors can shape a better future, not only for Canadians, but globally. We believe Homestead Investment Cooperative will represent a beacon of growth and prosperity in our province and our entrepreneurs. And we want to create this growing community of investors, creators, and builders. And I know that Alberta is a place where people get stuff done. And if we can create a strong group that's collaborative and a strong community across Alberta, I'm really excited by the prospect of creating that kind of a community, and also excited by the investment opportunities that that kind of a community is going to create for us as a group. So through our presentations, we've gotten a number of questions, and so we've listed some of these under our FAQs. So one of the questions is it difficult to sell shares in a co-op ownership model? What if I want to get my money out early? So I did answer that a couple slides ago. There's the option after 4 months of purchase to sell your shares to a new investor or to an existing investor with board approval, of course. And then after that 5-year mark, you also have the option of redeeming your shares direct to the co-op. What are the benefits for investors who live outside of Edmonton? So we've actually been talking to investors outside of Edmonton, and one of the reasons why they're interested is that this is just an opportunity to diversify their investments. And maybe they have an existing real estate portfolio, but in the community that they live in, because that's where they're close to. And normally they might not get an opportunity to invest in commercial real estate in downtown Edmonton because it's not where they live. So this is an opportunity to diversify across Alberta, invest in different markets, meet other like-minded investors across Alberta, and so grow their investor network as well. What is the difference between this investment in a GIC or an investment in a REIT? Well, one of the biggest differences is that annual AGM where everyone gets a vote and a say in the direction of the cooperative, as well as an opportunity to sit on the board if there's a board position available. The events that we're going to host, we're going to have multiple opportunities for our community and the investment community to come together. So it's much more collaborative, much more, you also get to see what you're investing in. So I know sometimes you will get details on the investment, but sometimes the money goes into a big pool. Excuse me. Especially when you're investing in a GIC, you don't necessarily know where your money is going, especially if it's going to more socially minded purposes or community minded purposes. So you will know exactly where your money is going with our cooperative model. And like I said, have a say in that. What is the desired next addition to the portfolio? Well, one of our first orders of business after closing on the building is to create a 5-year strategic plan. And we want to do that with input from our investment community. We're going to be looking at where is the majority of our investors from? Do they have any projects that they'd like us to take a look at? We'll be developing out a set of criteria for those projects, And then at our first AGM, we will actually be doing a vote on that strategic plan and getting feedback from our membership on where they want to invest next. So I look at it as we want to invest where the money is and the investment's coming from. We want to invest where the energy is, where the markets are strong. So there's a few criteria that we will set for our next investment. Next steps. So if you're interested in investing, you can sign up for our investor portal. You could by either emailing grow@homesteadcowork.ca, or you can go to our landing page at homesteadcowork.ca/HIC. And there's buttons for signing up to the investor portal for both Class B or Class C shares. Once you create that profile on the investor portal, you can access the due diligence documents on the investor portal. And what those documents are is cash flow projections, a copy of the appraisal, copy of the building condition report, the full offering memorandum, a copy of this presentation. So all the documents that you would need to make an informed decision. You can then proceed to actually start investing. There's buttons there to say I'm ready to invest. And then you fill out all your personal information. Or if you need to, we could set up a call and I can walk you through that process. And we also have options to tour the building by again emailing grow@homesteadcowork.ca, where the staff in the building are there 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and we can set up a tour of the building at any time during the week. So this is contact info for myself. Welcome to email me or call me if you have any further questions, or as you walk through the process, if something pops up that you need more information on. You could also attend. So we're doing these webinars weekly on Wednesdays from noon to 1. So you can attend a webinar as well and ask your questions. And yeah, I'm very excited to have this community grow and have more people join our investment cooperative. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. So now it's time for questions. So I'm just going to take a look at the chat. So first question here is, thanks for introducing us to this exciting investment opportunity. I would most likely be transferring funds from an existing self-directed RSP. So what date would I need to set for transferring / setting up this second self-directed RSP option? Second question, did so say that the 6% return is based on the current leases in the building? Will that return be affected by the percentage of the 9 million that you're able to raise from individual investors versus commercial mortgage? So yeah, so you can transfer from an existing self-directed RSP. The date to set this for transferring, so it does take a couple weeks when it's transferring from an existing RSP. So I would, guess about 2 to 3 weeks for that transfer. So I would do that sooner rather than later. Because it's existing, you're not affected by the deadline of March 3rd for a new RSP. We just want to have the funds transferred before April 30th. And currently our offering is open till March 17th. So that would essentially, as long as you got it in by March 17th, that would give enough time to do the transfer of funds. Second question. So yes, the 6% return is just based on the current cash flow from the current leases in the building. Will that return be affected by the percentage of the 9 million that you're able to raise? So no. So the cash flow projections in the portal actually show that scenario, and it is 6% either from doing the full raise or from doing the leveraged option. The reason why is we were using a conservative investment, excuse me, conservative commercial mortgage rate. I think it was 7% in our cash flow projections. because at the time, a couple months ago when we were putting together, it was a little bit higher. Now interest rates have come down. And we know that if we do the first scenario where we raise the full 9 million and we've purchased the building for cash, we know that the lenders are going to be a lot more competitive in the rates that they give us for refinancing. So we do believe, um, although until that date, until that happens and we have term sheets from our lenders, we do believe that we can get competitive interest rates if we've purchased the building for cash, which would then probably make that 6% even better. But obviously, until we're at that point, we can't project what that will look like. But with interest rates coming down, that only helps our returns to our investors. So the way I looked at it when we were discussing it with as a board, if the commercial mortgage interest rate was 7%, that's actually higher and more costly money than just raising the full 9 million and giving 6% to our investors. So it's actually not advantageous to enter into a loan that's over 6%. But if our interest rate is lower than 6%, that's considered cheaper money, allows us to leverage the asset and take funds and deploy them elsewhere and give higher returns to our investors. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm happy to jump on a call separately if we want to go through that in more detail. Thank you for the presentation, Tegan. Can you give us an idea of how much funds have been raised to date? So firm funds actually in is just over 530,000. We do have other investors that are actually going through the process. So they've logged into the portal, they've developed out their profile, and they're taking a look at the details of the documents. So that can change at any minute or any day, sorry. But we have a couple Class C and a couple Class B investors right now in the pipeline. How long the discounts are available for are literally based on first come, first serve. So if you get a couple Class C, that will close very quickly. Class B takes longer, obviously, at minimum $10,000 purchases. So it's hard to predict when we'll reach that first million and that opportunity will close. But yeah, we take this day by day. And oh yeah, and thanks Ian. So that's so far all of the messages in the chat. Is there anyone that has a, oh yes, we do have a hand raised here. So Shaka Z.
Yeah, yeah,
Hello.
thanks so much for that. Hi, and pleasure to meet you. Thanks for the presentation. Um, a bunch of different questions, but I guess one that comes to mind right away is so you mentioned so far $530,000 raised. Um, if you don't get to the amount that you desire, what's the plan then?
Yeah, so we will give everybody the option of getting their funds returned. Or something that's been brought up to me by a couple of investors is that they'd like to, because they like this idea and they want to keep growing this, they're saying, well, could we stay in and look at investing in a different project or investing in a different way? So we look at it as it's your money until we actually close on the offering that we've presented. And so if we don't close, we will definitely first option, return your money and everybody goes their separate ways. But for the ones that really want to stay in and actually look at growing this and building this with us, then we'll give them the option to stay in and go look for another building because there are other buildings, absolutely, that we could look at and create this model and do this. It's just this one, like I said earlier, it's existing, it's cash flowing. It's central in Alberta. It's a good first project. It's obviously a larger one. But by starting with a larger one, we're actually going to be building out a large community to start, which will make all the other projects easier to execute on because we'll have an extensive network. So that's why we started with this one. We looked at a couple that were lower raises, and old and unique buildings. Like we're always looking for unique offerings. But one of the downsides of them was that they weren't cash flowing and they needed major retrofits. And because I'm experienced in real estate development and these types of retrofits, that adds a lot of risk to a project, because you have to go through all your permitting and designs. And then obviously with our inflationary environment, construction pricing changes significantly over short periods of time. So I'm more interested in lower risk investments that are of existing cash flows, have a solid uh, market around them, a growing market around them. So yeah, we would be open to looking at other investment opportunities if this one does not close.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Kind of another follow up question is, do you have opportunities for group investments, so to speak? So yeah, so let's say if I want to invest not as an individual, but perhaps I have a group behind me. What does that look like from a membership perspective, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's just creating a legal entity that that group would be a part of. So whatever that, whether that's a joint venture or limited partnership, um, or like a corporation. So I myself, I didn't invest personally. I invested through my holding company, which is incorporated. So yeah, it can be done definitely through a group.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll just leave some space for others to ask some questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Tegan. That was really good, very informative. And then my question is tying in with the question that was just asked, because I was gonna ask if I could add my daughter on with me, but I guess you added that you can have more than one person. So I think the answer is yes to that. So yeah, to go from there. So you're saying that okay, if the building doesn't close, there's new ventures available out there. Would that be in the form of would it be still be commercial, or would you be looking at house ventures perhaps, or
Honestly, at that point, it's a new project. So what we would do if anyone wanted to stay in and look at the next opportunity with us, we would then be getting everybody together and saying, what do you want to invest in? And let our membership drive that. There's definitely opportunities in residential as well. And I think like this model doesn't, it really doesn't limit us in any way. What's limited is just literally what our membership decides they want to invest in. And when we put in our mandate, we said mixed use, and which includes residential and commercial or that combined. Um, so yeah, so really we would be open to anything anyone brings to the table that our group wants to take a look at.
okay, thank you. And then I have somebody I'm in Calgary, but there's somebody in Ontario that may be interested because I was saying, oh, there's this medium that I have. Is it just Alberta, pretty much?
No, it's across Canada. So we already have investments from BC. We have someone looking from Northwest Territories. So yeah, anyone in Canada can invest.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions, guys. Any more?
I have one that's a little bit more on the theoretical side of
Yep.
things. This is mainly around the trends around commercial real estate in downtown Edmonton. So I think earlier on in your presentation, you mentioned that the commercial real estate market is. I don't know if the word you used was shrinking, or maybe there's a bit of an exit from that. So from your perspective, how do you convince potential investors that you know while maybe the commercial market in downtown Edmonton may be shrinking, where does the opportunity lie from this perspective? I don't know if that makes sense. And I think I know the answer, but I'd love to.
Yeah. So it was vacancies or commercial
Vacancy. No.
office vacancies are declining, which is good. Um, and that's true for Calgary as well. Um, so I think
So
the question was like, how do we convince people that it's good to invest in downtown Edmonton? But
yeah, I mean, so I guess maybe from the vacancies perspective, that can be one of two ways, right? Occupancies are increasing, so people are coming back to downtown as the rationale, or that commercial businesses are leaving downtown. But I assume is the first one, right? Um, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So what's happening is that we're now having because like COVID impacted all cities around the world actually.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now is people coming back downtown, as well as those conversions from office towers to residential. There's been some incentives, especially through CMHC financing for residential. And then the municipality's been really encouraging uh, um, tower transitions. Um, and one other thing I didn't mention is right next door to us. So we're on Jasper Ave between 105th and 106th Street. And right now under construction, which is going to happen, they've already mobilized and started all the preliminary work. And the majority of the construction is going to happen this spring and into the summer is this major park between 106 all the way over to 108. They're creating this huge park downtown Edmonton with all these new amenities. And that's actually spurred new residential tower construction all around that park, which those towers, some of them are actually coming online right now. I've gotten their leasing emails. They're already taking leases for the apartments and stuff. And what is that going to do? That brings a lot more life to downtown Edmonton after working hours as well. So obviously, that housing is going to attract, or that's going to, help service the workforce downtown. But a significant number of the residents is actually going to be for post-secondary institutions downtown. So we have a number of post-secondary institutions that have space downtown. That's Grant McEwen, um, Norquest. There's the U of A has some stuff downtown. So the brokers have said there's an expected influx of 15,000 students that will need to have accommodations in downtown Edmonton. I can't remember if it's in the next 5 years or 10 years. But that brings us a lot of foot traffic and life into the downtown core, both during the day, but also specifically after hours. That's going to transform that area of downtown Edmonton. And already our block has 5 coffee shops on it. And people always laugh about it on our block because where else would you be able to support 5 coffee shops on literally one block? In Edmonton? Well, our block is very unique. To the east of us is City Hall, Stantec, obviously the Arena District, but a lot of municipal employees. To the west of us is the legislature and a lot of provincial employees and provincial consultants and organizations that support the provincial government. And we are right in the center and at the cross section of them. So what happens, and I've been there myself and witnessed it, is when you're on the sidewalk and you're walking, you bump into city councilors, you bump into administrators from the city, you bump into MLAs, you bump into staff that work at the legislature ground. And this has become a meeting hotbed of sorts right on our block, which brings a lot of foot traffic during the day. And then also we have probably the highest concentration of private, like or small restaurants that have very unique offerings on Jasper. So it's not like there's blocks that are further east of us where it's just a big tower and it's one big face of a building, whereas our block is a bunch of older buildings. Like our neighboring building to the east of us is 100 years old. The one straight to the west of us, I think, is probably in the 1960s or 70s. But smaller buildings that have a lot of smaller restaurants all concentrated in that one block. So we do see a lot of foot traffic at night because of that, because of the food service offerings that they provide. And the restaurant in our building has won a ton of awards. So even during the pandemic, when restaurants were allowed to reopen, they had their original location on 109th Street, and people were lined up around the block, and people were fighting for reservations to get in there for 3 to 4 months. That's how busy they were, because they've created such a unique restaurant experience in Edmonton and award-winning food as well as award-winning cocktails and service. So um, the intent of Food's Repair Shop is that you go in and you get fixed. They fix you through take away all your stresses, all your ailments, and create an ambiance and experience where you feel like you've been transported away and taken a bit of a mini holiday. And I've experienced that myself several times going there. I hear that from others. They are hopping busy. I cannot believe how busy they are every day of the week that they're open, every weekend. Like I said, they're a hub for all these events. They have award shows being serviced out of their location because they offer such a unique environment, unique food, really good music. So our block has become a hub of energy. We've spurred more development around us. And so what happens when you concentrate energy in an area is that it spreads out and it starts to affect the areas around it. And we become that lightning rod for things that are happening in downtown Edmonton. And we expect this project to only throw gasoline on that fire. It's gonna really help add to that energy on that block. And people are taking notice. And yeah, I think uh, I I I see the upswing of downtown Edmonton. I think it is time to invest in downtown Edmonton. People that told me 3 years ago that they were divesting out of downtown Edmonton have told me in the last 6 months they're investing back into downtown Edmonton. It's the center of our province. It's the capital city of our province. It's got major government bodies that are not going anywhere. Um, they are the backstop of our downtown Edmonton employment and office vacancies. And yeah, I'm bullish on investing in Alberta as a whole. And I do think it starts with our capital city in the center of our province. So
Awesome.
I don't know if that answered your
No,
question.
it does. It does. And thanks for that. I've been to Foods myself once. It was really hard to get in. I tried to go this Friday for Valentine's, and yeah, that was impossible. But yeah, okay. Thanks. I appreciate your response.
Yeah. And another thing too that I haven't mentioned is, so the co-working side, we've also created a virtual membership because we want to create a community of entrepreneurs that are building each other up across the province. And so the co-working business is not just about leasing space, it's also about building that network. And we want to have a network of at least 500 entrepreneurs across the province that are part of our virtual membership. And we'll be creating opportunities for them to come and actually attend physical events. And we're talking about like an annual conference that we could host out of the building. But that's creates additional revenues for the co-working space as well. So we're building out revenues that are not just reliant on physical space, but on building a community around it.
Nice. I think you mentioned investors would have um, one of the benefits is to participate in these co-working spaces. Was that it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we see down the road, like we really wanted to first focus on investing in real estate because it is a good investment, especially when you're looking at a long-term investment. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can come in
Yeah.
and tour it and see it. But one of the other strategic directions we want to look at in the future is investment in actual businesses as well that we have nurtured and seen grow in our space. So one of the things about being a co-working space is you are at the front lines of those small businesses. So it's a bit different than just going to a pitch night where a small business or a startup is asking for investment. You're only getting a very quick interaction with them. But as a co-working space, they are in our space daily. We're seeing their business grow. We're talking with the founders regularly. We know when their business is good. We know when their business is bad. We know where they need the most help. We're constantly in touch with them. So when it comes to that phase of this cooperative where we actually are looking at investing in businesses, we will with confidence be able to say these guys are growing and this is a great opportunity, or these guys need a bit more support and are not quite ready for investment. And that's what I see from 10 years of operating a co-working business. We've really been able to tell when a business is doing well or it's going to be downsizing soon and stuff because we're at the front lines. We see them every day and we see how their businesses are operating.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And we've had some amazing companies through our space that people can't even believe. Wyvern, they were a satellite company building satellites for space, and they were homegrown out of our space.
Nice.
And they've now outgrown it. They got tons of funding and they're now in a space that's more suited for their specific use. Um, we had Epic Games in our space, um, which most people are surprised to hear. They obviously are their main home is out of San Francisco, but they had a satellite office in Edmonton, and we were the home for their servers and their programmers. Um, we had Run With It Synthetics, another great startup story where we were the home for them for quite a few years and even during COVID. And they got a ton of funding. They provide simulated models, AI models of cities. They can predict outcomes of major disasters and help cities plan for that in the future. So, and they've grown exponentially. They now are actually in a building 2 doors down from us. And they now have taken on quite a large amount of square footage. So again, these are examples where if we had this cooperative in place and these companies were growing out of Alberta Block, we could say to them in advance, what does your growth look like? What kind of space do you need? And we could actually look at potentially purchasing a building that would work for them for their expansion opportunity and now have a tenant in hand. That's another great investment if we got a long-standing relationship with a tenant. So I see these opportunities, but these opportunities are currently passing us by. But I think we could capitalize on them in the future once the cooperative is up and running.
Thanks so much. I do have to go to another call, but I appreciate this and we'll be following up.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for the questions. Great. Okay, I do see that we're at time limit here, so I would like to thank everyone for joining. This was fantastic. If you have any more questions, definitely reach out to me, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be reaching out to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks. Great. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Bye.